Hey, come on in. It's time to talk. What do you think? It's the middle of the week. I've been having some overreactions, so I thought if your girl was having some overreactions, you probably are having some overreactions. And I also thought it's been a minute since we did a spin cycle, and since we've had a little time off, maybe you're getting stuck. So I thought we'd talk about overreactions tonight. Scott's sitting here with me. So if I look like I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at him because he's probably making a face at me. Anyways. All right, so let's talk about overreactions. I recently, like I said, have been having some overreactions. And I think that anytime we have reactions that are disproportionate to a standard response. I won't say normal because that's a sliding scale, but a standard response. I always think it's good to pause and to look at what's happening. So I don't know if somebody's told you that you've been overreacting this week. I don't know if somebody's criticized you, or maybe your kids, or maybe you just realized it yourself that maybe you've been blowing up, or maybe you've been shouting, maybe you've been crying, maybe you've been secluding yourself. Take a look at the emotion and the size of the emotion. Sometimes it can be related to a trigger, for sure. Like a re-traumatization. Also, sometimes it's related to fear, is what I've found out. So sometimes, because my feelings run my life, or have the tendency to run my life, instead of facts, by the way, have you taken the Enneagram? I'm an Enneagram 4. I have to constantly, pull that back, pull the reins back. So, I just lost my train of thought now, and I don't know if you can hear me with this music. I'm at a coffee shop. So, look at the size of the emotion, and also look at it in comparison to what's typical for you, or what's standard for you. So, let's say, for example, I'm talking about my past or my ex. There's some typical things or emotions that will happen in those conversations. I know those. My close friends probably know those things. And it's kind of typical emotions, kind of up, down, ride the waves of those things. If you're in a situation where maybe you're talking about a topic, or maybe you're on a new topic, or maybe you're in a heated discussion, and all of a sudden it completely, I'll say, blows up, that's something to look into, and that's something to explore. Last summer, we were debating, I was out in Utah, and I was with my in-laws and my husband, and we were debating this news article. It was when all of the, when the gymnastics team was filing all those charges against their coach for the the sexual abuse that was going on, and this whole idea of consent came up in the conversation, and I could feel myself really starting to get animated and more passionate about this topic, and I could feel some emotion coming on about this word consent as we kind of started unpacking what is consent, what does consent mean, what's definitely not consent. Anyways, all that to say is we were talking about that specific word, and I felt myself having a reaction, and a disproportionate response to that. I'm talking even tears and all of that. And so while I'm a very empathetic person, it wasn't just about empathy for those people's stories. Like, I literally had to sit there for probably 2 days on that vacation and really think about some things that happened in my previous relationship around this idea of consent and defining consent and coming to the realization that there was some sexual abuse and kind of misappropriation, some twisting, some just deviant behavior in that way. Things that were asked of me, things that maybe were done, but I didn't officially consent to them. And so that was a huge deal to try to start unpacking that, because I had never in my head thought of it that way, and I just thought, well, it's a marriage and you're married, and so yeah, it might rub me the wrong way, or I might not like something in that part of our relationship. But anyways, so all of that to say is there was like a topic, this whole topic of consent came up, and I could tell I was having like an enormous reaction that was not typical. Like if you're hearing a news story, or you're feeling emotionally compelled by something, or drawn in, or you're feeling compassionate towards whatever the group of people is that's in the news at that time, the gymnasts. So that's an example of something I had to look at. Another scenario this week that I had to look at in terms of overreacting was with my husband's ex. So there's a lot of things that we rally around, like family, celebrations, milestones, things like that. And if I have enough time to process that, like I can work myself up into that and say, okay, I can deal with this, and this is what's going to happen. And I kind of talk myself through like what it's going to look like, what the day is going to look like, what the weekend's going to look like, what everybody's role is, how we're all going to interact. And so I have time to process that. But I was thrown into a situation because of time, because of location, because of some traveling restrictions. I appreciate you saying those things, Nancy. So because I had these other factors like impeding, I was not able to prepare myself. And so I launched into this anxiety attack, basically. I'm not going to say it was a panic attack because I did not have trouble breathing. But I was sitting there, like, I don't know if you can see, like, I was just sitting there, like, shaking my legs, my fingers were tapping, and I was doing whatever I could to feel some sense of control, like, in my body. So for about an hour, we were all together eating lunch, and I was just literally just trying to deal. Like, at that point, it was about self-preservation, and I knew it was happening. I knew I felt out of control. I knew that, like, this is not normally how it is. And I didn't have time to unpack, like, why at the moment, because I was just focused on all you need to do is just get through the lunch. You need to just get to the other side of this. Like, what's worse is if you exit the situation or you go sit in the car. What's worse is, okay, so I was kind of like working myself through it. So I was able to do that, and then spent probably another 2 days after the fact unpacking that. Like, okay, why was that disproportionate? Why was I able to do it every other time, but not this time? So, and I realized there was a lot of outside factors. There was time against me. We were coming back from the vacation, and so there was 2 vehicles, and we were trying to coordinate all this stuff, and so I felt like I was in the middle of this bigger thing that we had to orchestrate. Sorry if I'm talking really vague. And so I didn't speak up for myself the way that I would usually speak up for myself, and my husband and I didn't communicate the way that we typically communicate. And so then part of our recap was about, okay, what do we need to do differently in that situation next time? Or what do you need to happen? Or what, how come you didn't speak up like you usually do? Or, I don't know, those kind of things. So it was important for me to kind of think through, like, okay, why did that happen? What was different about that situation than the other situations? See, the thing is, we're gonna have emotions, like, especially as females, like, we're gonna have emotions. Like, that's how God created us. Like, don't apologize for emotions. Like, I'm not asking you to apologize for emotions or getting upset of things you should get upset about. I'm just saying, sometimes if it's a disproportionate reaction, that is a flag, a symbol, a red light to us to say, take a look at this area. So if we don't want to get stuck doing the same things over and over, and we want to be able to like move forward in things, part of that growth is recognizing where those hot buttons are. And so for me, when I'm thinking through my emotions, or when I'm having a reaction to something, usually I can narrow it down a little quicker than I used to be able to, because I know myself a little bit better, and I've kind of known and learned like my patterns of things. So I wanted to just no, that's true. That is very true. We talked a lot about it. We didn't just go for the jugular. We didn't just make accusations. I'm very big on asking questions, even with the kids. Like, this is a total sidebar. So instead of like, well, I guess it's not really a sidebar, because it's like, let's say you're having a reaction to somebody else, but you're not sure why. I'm always encouraging, please just ask a question. Don't make an accusation. Like, just ask a question. You seem more upset than usual. Like, how can I help? Or what are you thinking right now? Or what are you feeling right now? Or is there something that I did to upset you? Or I don't know. There's like 100 different ways you could like phrase a question without it being an accusation. And that is like one of my main tools that I use and try to teach the kids. So I guess my encouragement to you tonight is not to not have emotions. Like, you're absolutely going to be emotional. That's how God created us. Life is full of ups and downs, right? If you read Lamentations, there's a time to weep, there's a time to mourn, there's a time to rejoice with those who rejoice, there's a time to cry and weep with those who weep. Like, that's how uniquely and in His image we're created. My encouragement to you is, as you pursue your healing, look for the areas where the reactions are disproportionate or that aren't in line with a standard response from you, from a healthy you. Where is the kind of anomaly, if you will? I love you guys. I want the best for you guys. We're on this healing journey together, right? We're all broken and we're whole at the same time, because God restores all those things. But you know, our brokenness doesn't go away, right? We have things to work on. We have areas to heal in. We have other things that happen outside of us that have effects on us. And so this week, maybe this is an area that you could look at a little longer, maybe a little deeper. Maybe just file it in your repertoire of tools to look for areas where overreactions are outside of the norm for you, that are disproportionate, that are maybe not typical, and then learn how you're going to grow from it. Got that? We got that? We got this? Listen, we still want to tell you about Hawaii. So once we get our stuff together, we're going to do a big live, put it on our YouTube channel about our Hawaii trip, because it was awesome. It was so awesome. All right. Have an awesome week. Be encouraged. You got this.